Between 1989 and 1990, Belgium experienced a sudden and unexpected wave of UFO reports, all describing a huge and often silent triangular-shaped object. Over 2,000 eyewitnesses came forward to report their sighting, among them Belgian Air Force pilots and police officers. Skeptics would have you believe that every single one of the 2,000 reports can be rationally explained. They put forward misidentifications of conventional aircraft lights, the planet Venus, or other celestial bodies in space, stealth aircraft, or plain and simple hoaxes. These explanations may appear perfectly reasonable on the surface, but I would ask you to consider the sheer volume of reports, and also this. This hitherto classified document surfaced through the American Freedom of Information Act. It gives details about a Belgian television chat show in March of 1990. The subject debated was entitled Belgium and the UFO Issue. Take a look at the distribution list contained within this document. Every major military and intelligence agency is featured. Even people at the White House received information about what was discussed and by whom on this program. If nothing else, this one single document blows away the myth that UFOs are not considered to be of defense significance. There have been over 400 radar observations made of UFOs down the years, but perhaps one of the most significant is a radar sequence released into the public domain by the Belgian Air Force itself. What you are seeing is the actual Belgian radar recording of a UFO which descends from 10,000 feet to 500 feet in less than 5 seconds. Had a human pilot been on board the UFO, the G-forces alone would have resulted in instant death. Skeptics and debunkers dismissed the radar footage by claiming the object was merely a reflection of some distant landmark, a temperature inversion created by freak weather conditions. Most conveniently forget to mention that 2 Belgian F-16 fighters had been ordered to intercept and identify the UFO in question. Did the pilots that night believe they had been simply chasing artificially created images? Listen now to the actual words of one of those pilots as he described what happened during this incredible encounter.
It stays very calm, and you always get the feeling it has everything under control. Till it says, well, now it's enough, and always happened. I think with me it was about 18 miles out that the thing just decides, okay, this is enough. Get an increase of airspeed from 50 to 100 miles an hour straight to, well, let's say Mach 8, Mach 9, Mach 10, incredibly. And the altitude, well, it went from 5,000 feet straight up to 60, 70,000 foot just in a split seconds.
Despite the fact ufologists have amassed over 400 actual radar recordings of UFOs down the years, and remember, those are only the ones we get to hear about, skeptics and debunkers continue to either totally ignore these, or worse, insist that in every case they had to have been produced by either faulty equipment or temperature inversions. Try telling that to the F-16 pilot. In March 1993, a huge triangular-shaped UFO penetrated British airspace and prompted Nick Pope, then head of the MOD's UFO desk, to conclude that it was extraterrestrial. Here's what he had to say about this particular incident.
One particular wave of flying triangle sightings I investigated from around the Lincolnshire area, I had received reports from UFO researchers that, quote, cars were bumper to bumper on the coastal road and everyone had seen this object. And I thought, well, you know, maybe, but maybe not. Let's check it out. Let's just see if there isn't a bit of exaggeration creeping in there. So, as it happened, there was a nearby military base, and so I phoned up the base commander and I said, look, hope you don't think this is bizarre, but we've heard these accounts, you know, but perhaps you can put me straight. The base commander said, well, actually, no, I can't. I was one of the people on that coast road, and my car was stopped, and I was looking out at this thing, along with the rest of them. And when I had things like that, I began to say to myself and to my bosses, you know, I don't think this business of no defense significance really holds up anymore. I don't think we can say that these things are all aircraft lights and weather balloons. We've got something much more going on in our airspace. a flight of a squadron, or rather 4, Tornado fighters were coming back across the North Sea to their base in Britain. The Tornado is pretty much one of the top aircraft in the RAF's inventory. These 4 aircraft were flying along quite happily. All of a sudden, they were overtaken at high speed by a UFO. Some sort of intergalactic joyrider or something came flashing past their cockpit and disappearing off into the distance. They couldn't catch it. They made a report, but really all they dared put down was stealth, simply because they didn't know what else to say. I got into work on the 31st of March 1993, and the phones were ringing off the hook. Throughout the course of the morning, it turned out that I was dealing with a huge wave of sightings over Britain, but there were some very, very interesting ones there. A family in Rugeley in Staffordshire saw this thing so close up that they leapt into their car and tried to chase it. It was moving slowly over the countryside. They'd heard this old familiar low humming sound, this low frequency sound that's rather akin to standing in front of the bass speaker at a pop concert, that sort of thing. Very unpleasant. They said they couldn't just hear it, they felt it, the waves passing through their body. The best sightings, though, on that particular night came from military personnel. The guard patrol at a place called RAF Cosford, near Wolverhampton, saw this move directly over the base. They were absolutely gobsmacked, and they checked, of course, the radar. Interestingly, there was nothing on the radar at all. There was nothing booked to fly. This was very late at night, about 1:10 in the morning. They phoned the nearby RAF base, RAF Shawbury, and they said, "You won't believe this, but we've just seen a flying saucer pass over the top of the base." Well, I think the meteorological officer who took the call wondered perhaps whether they'd been having a little late night celebration or something, but nonetheless he went outside to see what he could see, and to his absolute amazement he saw a light coming his way from the direction of Cosford. It got closer and closer, and it resolved itself into a very definite shape. He was not looking at a light in the sky, he was looking at a craft. He heard the low hum, and he then witnessed the craft pass pretty much slap bang over the top of RAF Shawbury. He estimated that its size was midway between, it's very precise, you know, good military sighting, midway between a C-130 Hercules transport aircraft and a Boeing 747 jumbo jet. You know, you're talking about something pretty big, in other words. The most fascinating and possibly disturbing aspect of this particular sighting was the fact that he had seen the craft fire what he could only describe as a beam of light down at the countryside, a few hundred yards from the base. You know, again, that was something that, again, made me think, well, there's more to this than meets the eye. There just seemed to be too many reports that you couldn't explain. I mean, you know, how many people think it's of no defense significance when, you know, casually a UFO overtakes the fastest of our jet fighters? I don't think that's of no defense significance. It worries the hell out.
On the 1st of June 1997, light aircraft pilot Malcolm Smith and a friend took off from Barton Airfield near Manchester en route to Carnarvon in North Wales. Weather conditions were ideal at the time. Shortly after 11:15 a.m, and while cruising at an altitude of approximately 1,500 feet, they both observed something beneath them which caused real alarm: the distinct outline of a massive triangle. UFO investigator David Caton was particularly intrigued, not least because he'd already interviewed a family who had spotted a flying triangle later that same day while travelling along the M56 motorway in Cheshire.
Well, we're standing on the control tower at Barton Aerodrome near Manchester. Now I'm talking to Malcolm Smith, who's a pilot of a Jodel aircraft, and I ended up speaking to Malcolm and his co-pilot because a family were coming along the motorway, the M56 towards Stockport from holiday on the evening of Sunday 1st of June 1997, and saw this massive triangle, and our local paper, the Stockport Express, put a little item out with the Seal family's agreement looking for other witnesses, and to our delight Malcolm rang me up because his sister lives in the Stockport area, bought the paper, and remembered Malcolm telling her about this triangle they saw that undertook their aircraft on the same day, beautiful sunny morning, not like today, of the 1st of June. So perhaps Malcolm would like to explain what himself and Martin saw when they were flying to Wales. Was it to
basically
Carnarvon? You
found a route to go from Barton to Carnarvon, which entails us going along the edge of the north edge of the Liverpool zone, which takes us a track along just south of Wigan and past a place called Rainford, which is near St Helens.
Yeah.
We were cruising at about 1,500 feet, 90 knots approximately, when Martin, who was in the co-pilot seat on the right-hand side, suddenly drew my attention to a very large triangular-shaped shadow that was overtaking our starboard wing, which I saw immediately, and it just appeared to be a very sharply defined triangular-shaped shadow, measuring approximately 150 to 200 foot across the wingspan. It was travelling almost exactly the same direction as us, which is due west, and overtaking us, I would say it was probably doing twice the speed that we were doing. Immediately we were a little bit concerned because the nature of the shadow was so sharp and well defined. You would expect it to be very close to where our aircraft was, so I was quite concerned about the possibility of a collision.
Yeah.
So we had a look around everywhere to see what it was that was creating the shadow. There was absolutely nothing in the sky at all, and it was clear blue sky. It was much clearer day than it is today. So we were really taken aback by it, and we were just at a loss as to what it was that was causing it. So we didn't really know what to do, so we just carried on basically to Carnarvon and reported it to the people there at the airport.
You logged it in your flying log, didn't you?
Yeah.
And your personal log, and I believe a log here at Barton as well.
Yeah, there's two logs. There's a personal flying log, and then there's also a log which is attached to the aeroplane. Anybody reports anything slightly unusual about the aeroplane or conditions of the day is put down on that log.
Did you talk to any air traffic controllers like Manchester Airport?
No, we didn't, because we were clear of both the Liverpool and the Manchester zone. A long way to go to Carnarvon, so we didn't really need to be in contact with anybody. We were still on Barton's frequency, but I thought it was inappropriate to notify them about it at the time.
Right, so we don't know whether they had it on radar, or even you were on radar to Manchester.
They tend to follow people that are fairly close to the zone on radar, just to make sure that they're not going to infringe into the airspace. So
you would have been on the radar?
It's possible we would have been on radar, yes.
We don't know. We won't know whether this thing causing the shadow was on their radar.
No idea.
Even though we couldn't see anything visually.
Nothing at all, absolutely. Yeah. And we did a few clearing turns to make sure it wasn't behind us or above or below.
Right.
There was absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Well, since that event, we've had two other pilots contact us flying in a microlight on Sunday the 6th of July, so that's another Sunday event, and they were flying back from Cranfield in Bedfordshire from an aviation weekend, and they weren't too far from you. They were sort of in Newton Willows, Haydock area, they thought.
Yeah.
And at 1,200 feet, beautiful sunny day again, they said, and the triangle shadow passed them in the opposite direction. They were undecided about speed, between perhaps 60 miles an hour to 200. The two of them couldn't make their minds up, two brothers. So they were equally nonplussed and mystified by it all, because again they couldn't see an object causing the shadow.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. We may get some more information, I don't know.
At approximately 11:45 p.m. that same night, Peter and Wynne Seal, with their two sons Craig and Scott, were travelling along the M56 motorway in Cheshire when they too spotted a triangular-shaped craft between junctions 11 and 12. Here's David Caton again.
Well, on the night of Sunday the 1st of June, the Seal family, that's Mum and Dad, with sons Scott and Craig, who were 17 and 20 years of age, were coming back from Wales from holiday, back to Heaton Mersey in Stockport, and as they got to the junction 9 there, just behind us, over the M6, they saw this triangular object hovering over the farm behind me, with lights on each corner, blue and red, with white lights amongst them. Way back they thought it was some lights on a tower because they were so still. They got to just past the junction here by the embankment, and the triangle shot over the car at about 150 foot up, and they experienced a sort of buzzing, humming noise as it went over. And then it went on to the opposite side of the motorway and followed down towards Stockport in their direction, roughly about 200 yards into the field, and gradually pulling away from them, and after about a mile and a half, they seemed to be catching it up again, and it seemed to be looking as though it was going to land. Anyway, it slowed down, did a shallow sort of dive, and disappeared behind the trees and bushes, though they couldn't actually see it touch the ground because of the bushes. Anyway, they weren't inclined to stop on the motorway. They were very shaken up to see if the object came back up again, so they carried on home to Stockport.
There is